Vegas was supposed to be just another spontaneous getaway, two best friends escaping their ordinary lives for a weekend of laughter, chaos, and a little too much tequila. I never thought it would end with a ring on my finger and a wife I'd known since college. Her name was Riley. We'd been inseparable for years. She was the wild one, the one who danced barefoot at parties, laughed too loudly, and somehow made every room brighter. I was the planner, the careful one. The "you should maybe drink some water" voice to her "let's take another shot" energy. Together, we balanced each other like night and day, and maybe that's why Vegas hit us harder than it should have. It started with neon lights and music that vibrated through our bones. We'd been drinking for hours, drifting from one bar to another, our laughter echoing down crowded sidewalks. Riley wore a silver dress that caught every light it touched, and every time she turned toward me, I swore she looked unreal, like something you shouldn't touch but couldn't stop staring at. At some point, she grabbed my hand and dragged me to a karaoke bar. "Come on, Liv," she said, her voice playful and drunk. "Let's make Vegas remember us." She sang horribly, off-key and out of rhythm, but her joy was magnetic. When she reached for my hand mid-song, I couldn't help but sing with her, laughing until tears spilled down my cheeks. Later, we stumbled out into the warm night air, tipsy and breathless. The city buzzed around us, laughter, music, strangers shouting, lights flashing like stars on steroids. Riley spun in the middle of the street, arms open, grinning like the world belonged to her. "Riley, you're gonna get hit by a car," I said, grabbing her wrist. She just laughed and fell into me, her body pressing close, her perfume wrapping around me in a dizzy haze of vanilla and tequila. "You always take care of me," she whispered, looking up at me. There was something in her eyes, soft, unreadable, and suddenly the noise around us disappeared. For a heartbeat, it felt like the world had gone still. Then she smiled. "Let's get married." I blinked. "What?" She giggled, tugging my hand toward one of those cheesy all-night wedding chapels with a flickering neon sign that said "married in minutes." "Come on, Liv," she teased, her eyes sparkling. "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right?" I should have said no. I should have laughed it off. But she was looking at me with that wild, beautiful recklessness that always pulled me in. So I said yes. And under the hazy glow of neon lights, with laughter in our throats and tequila in our veins, Riley and I stumbled into a chapel and into a decision that would change everything. Sunlight. Blinding, merciless, and way too early. That's the first thing I remember. The second thing was the pounding in my head that felt like a drumline was practicing inside my skull. And then Riley's arm, draped lazily over my waist. For a second, I thought I was still dreaming. Her breath was warm against the back of my neck, slow and steady, and her fingers were tangled with mine. My heart started racing. Slowly, carefully, I turned my head, and there she was, lying beside me in bed, hair a wild mess, face peaceful in a way that made it hard to breathe. Then I saw it. A ring. On my hand. I sat up so fast that Riley groaned in protest. "Liv, what time is it?" she mumbled, rubbing her eyes. Then she froze, her gaze following mine down to her own hand, where an identical ring glimmered faintly in the sunlight. Her eyes widened. "Wait. No way." "Riley," I whispered, voice cracking. "Did we?" She blinked, still half asleep. "Get married," she finished for me, squinting at the papers scattered on the nightstand. She reached over, picked one up, and read aloud, "Marriage certificate. Olivia Grace Bennett and Riley Harper." My stomach dropped. Oh my God. Riley looked at me for a long second before her lips curled into a grin. "Well," she said, "that explains why my mouth tastes like cheap champagne and bad decisions." "Riley, this isn't funny," I said, throwing a pillow at her. This is real." She laughed, sitting up and pulling her hair into a messy bun. "Relax, Liv. It's Vegas. People do this kind of thing all the time. We'll just get it annulled." But something in her tone wasn't as confident as her words. There was a flicker, something soft, uncertain, before she looked away. I got out of bed, pacing. The hotel room looked like a tornado had passed through. Our clothes were everywhere, shoes in different corners, an empty champagne bottle on the carpet, and a glittery veil lying over the TV. I picked it up slowly, the memory flashing through my mind, Riley laughing, spinning in front of a mirror, veil crooked, lipstick smudged, saying, "Do you take me to be your lawfully wedded disaster?" I hadn't thought it would actually happen. Liv, Riley's voice broke through my thoughts. She was watching me now, softer, more serious. "Hey, are you okay?" I turned toward her, feeling my throat tighten. "We're married, Riley. This isn't just some hangover mistake. This is us." She stood, stepping closer until she was only inches away. "I know," she said quietly. "And maybe it's crazy, but last night, when we were standing there, it didn't feel wrong." Her words hit me harder than I expected. Because as much as I wanted to deny it, part of me remembered that moment too, the way her hand felt in mine, the way my heart had skipped when she said, "I do," the way it all had felt strangely right. The hotel room was a whirlwind of confusion, laughter, and lingering glances that neither of us knew how to interpret. After the initial shock, Riley insisted we get brunch before dealing with our legal drama, as she put it. I wanted to be annoyed, but when she smiled at me with that lazy, charming grin, it was impossible to stay mad. Down in the cafe, everything felt oddly normal. Except it wasn't. She sat across from me, hair still messy, wearing my oversized hoodie that hung loosely off one shoulder. The sunlight poured in through the windows, catching the gold in her eyes. For a moment, it was hard to focus on the menu or on the fact that she was technically my wife now. "So," she said, stirring her coffee with a straw, "how does it feel being married to your best friend?" I rolled my eyes, but my heart wasn't steady. "It feels like I need a lawyer and an aspirin." She smirked. "That's romantic." I sighed, leaning back in my seat. "Riley, we can't just pretend this is funny. We actually got married. There are papers, legal documents. What if it's not that easy to undo?" She tilted her head, her teasing fading for a moment. "Then we'll figure it out," she said gently. "Together. Like we always do." Something about the way she said together made my chest tighten. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine. It was such a small touch, but it lingered. And suddenly, I couldn't remember why my heart was racing, fear or something else entirely. After breakfast, we walked down the Vegas Strip, trying to retrace the chaos of the night before. We laughed at our own ridiculousness, stopping in front of the little white chapel we'd stumbled into. The neon heart-shaped sign flickered weakly in the sunlight, and when we walked closer, the old Elvis impersonator who had officiated us waved and called out, "Well, look who's still married." Riley doubled over laughing, and even I couldn't help it. "Guess we made quite the impression," she said, still giggling as we walked away. As the day went on, the laughter faded into something softer. We ended up by the hotel pool, lounging under the glow of a fading sunset. Riley leaned back in her chair, sunglasses low on her nose. "You know," she said quietly, "I keep thinking about last night. About how happy you looked." I frowned slightly. "Happy?" "Yeah." She turned her head toward me. "When we said, 'I do,' you weren't laughing. You were glowing. I don't think I've ever seen you like that." Her words made me flush. I tried to brush it off. "You were drunk, Riley." "We both were." "Maybe," she said with a small shrug. "But sometimes, people tell the truth when they're drunk. Maybe that's why we did it." I looked at her, the fading sunlight painting gold across her skin. For the first time, I didn't have a reply. Because deep down, part of me knew she was right. The next morning, everything felt different. Not awkward exactly, but charged. Like the air between us had changed, heavy, unspoken, and humming with something neither of us dared to name. "Riley and I decided to stay in Vegas one more day, to clear things up," she said. "But I think both of us knew it wasn't really about paperwork anymore. It was about us." We spent the morning walking through the quiet corners of the city, iced coffees in hand, talking about everything except the one thing that mattered most. The marriage. The night. The look we'd shared when the Elvis impersonator had said, "You may kiss your bride." The memory hit me suddenly, her face inches from mine, both of us laughing nervously before she leaned in. It had been a quick kiss, clumsy and impulsive. but something in that kiss had felt real. Too real. Hey, Riley's voice snapped me out of it. She was standing by a souvenir shop, holding up a white t-shirt that read "Wife Material" in bold pink letters. I groaned. Please don't. She grinned mischievously. Oh, I'm absolutely buying this. She waved it at the cashier before I could protest. When she came out, she handed me a matching one that said "Accidental Bride." Riley. Come on, she said, laughing. When in Vegas, right? Later, we found ourselves at a quiet rooftop bar overlooking the strip. The sun was setting again, casting the sky in soft gold and pink hues. Riley sipped her drink, her legs crossed lazily, her gaze lost in the horizon. You ever think, she said suddenly, that maybe the universe plays tricks on us to show us what we really want? I looked at her. Are you saying the universe wanted us to get drunk and married? She laughed, that warm, infectious sound that always got to me. No. I'm saying maybe it's showing us something we've been too blind to see. I tried to play it off. And what exactly would that be? She turned to me then, eyes soft and serious. That maybe we're more than just best friends. The words hung between us like a fragile thread. My chest tightened and I couldn't look away. Because deep down, I'd felt it too. The way my pulse quickened when she smiled at me, the way my skin tingled every time she brushed my arm, the way she made me feel safe and restless all at once. But saying it out loud would change everything. Riley, I whispered, my voice trembling slightly. We've been best friends for 6 years. I know, she said softly, reaching out to touch my hand. And maybe I've been in love with you for most of them. The world seemed to stop. The noise of Vegas faded, the lights blurred, and all I could hear was the pounding of my heart. Before I could think, she leaned closer, her breath warm against my skin. For a second, I thought she might kiss me again, but she didn't. She just whispered, "You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know." That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Riley's face, the way her voice had softened when she said she might have been in love with me for years. The words had replayed in my mind like a song on repeat, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't silence them. I tossed in bed, the glow from the Vegas lights leaking through the curtains. Riley was lying just a few feet away on the other side of the room, her breathing calm and even. I wanted to wake her, to talk, to ask, but I was afraid. Afraid that if I asked, I'd hear something I wasn't ready to feel. Except I already felt it. The memories we'd built over the years, the late-night talks, the way she always remembered my coffee order, the hugs that lasted too long to be just friendly, it all made sense now. And suddenly, the idea of being married to her didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like something I had been unknowingly waiting for. The next morning, Riley woke first. She looked at me and smiled sleepily. "Hey, Mrs. Bennett Harper," she teased softly. I groaned, but my heart fluttered anyway. "Don't start." She sat up, pulling her knees to her chest. "I meant what I said last night," she said quietly. "I know it's crazy, and I know we didn't plan any of this, but when I think about you, it doesn't feel wrong, Liv." I sat up too, my pulse quickening. "Riley, this isn't simple. We can't just wake up one day and decide we're in love. Can't we?" she asked gently. "Or have we just been pretending we weren't?" Her question hit deeper than I expected. For a long time, I just stared at her, the truth sitting heavy on my tongue. She looked scared but hopeful, like she'd finally said something she'd been holding in for years. I moved closer, our knees almost touching. "I don't know what this is," I whispered, "but I know I don't want to lose you." She smiled faintly. "Then don't." Something shifted then. I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, and she caught my hand, holding it there against her cheek. Her skin was warm, her eyes searching mine for something, permission, maybe. I didn't say yes, but I didn't pull away either. She leaned in slowly, giving me every chance to stop her. But I didn't want to. And when her lips finally met mine, everything inside me went quiet. It wasn't wild or rushed this time. It was soft, careful, real. The kind of kiss that felt like a confession. When we finally pulled apart, she laughed softly, her forehead resting against mine. "So," she whispered, "still want that annulment?" I couldn't help but smile. Ask me again tomorrow. She grinned, her thumb tracing slow circles against my hand. Tomorrow and the day after that and maybe every day after. And for the first time since we'd woken up married, I didn't feel confused. I felt certain. Leaving Vegas felt surreal. The city that had witnessed our chaos now disappeared behind us, fading into desert and sky as our flight took off. Riley sat by the window, humming softly to herself, her fingers occasionally brushing mine on the armrest. Every time she did, my heart reacted before my mind could catch up. When we landed back home, the weight of reality settled in. Our phones buzzed with messages, family, coworkers, group chats. The normal world was waiting, and it didn't know that we'd left a chapel with rings and vows we never meant to make. At her apartment, Riley dropped her bags with a dramatic sigh. Well, Mrs. Bennett Harper, back to boring adulthood. I laughed quietly, but the name made my stomach flip in that dangerous, giddy way. You really need to stop calling me that. Why? You don't like the sound of it? She teased, raising an eyebrow. I didn't answer, and she smirked knowingly. Over the next few days, we tried to act normal. We hung out like always, movies, takeout, late-night talks, but something had changed. The silences between us were different now, heavier, charged. I'd catch her staring at me when she thought I wasn't looking. And when our hands brushed, neither of us pulled away anymore. One night, she invited me over to talk about the annulment papers. The word alone made my chest ache. She had the forms printed on her kitchen counter, untouched. So, she said softly, do we do this? I looked down at them, the black ink blurring as my thoughts spun. It's the logical thing, I said, trying to sound calm. Riley crossed her arms, leaning against the counter. Logical isn't always right. Riley. She cut me off gently. I'm not saying we have to stay married. I just don't want to erase it like it meant nothing. Because to me, it did. Her voice wavered just enough to break something inside me. I looked at her, really looked, her messy hair, the nervous way she bit her lip, the hope hiding behind her sarcasm, and I realized I didn't want to erase it either. Do you ever think about that night? I asked quietly. She smiled faintly. Every minute. I stepped closer, heart pounding. You said you might have been in love with me for years. Were you serious? Her eyes met mine, steady and unguarded. I've never been more serious. The room felt smaller, the distance between us shrinking until I could feel her breath against my skin. Then maybe, I whispered, we shouldn't undo it. She blinked, stunned. What are you saying? I smiled softly. I'm saying, maybe we give this a chance. Not because of tequila or Vegas. Because I think I might love you too. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she exhaled shakily, her eyes bright. Say that again. I love you, I said, finally letting the words fall free. She laughed, half relief, half disbelief, and pulled me into her arms. Guess we don't need those papers after all. I leaned into her, my heartbeat syncing with hers. Guess not. Being married to Riley, actually married, felt nothing like I expected. There were no grand declarations or dramatic gestures. It was quiet, steady, and somehow more real than anything I'd ever known. The first few weeks were awkward in all the small ways that come with change. I'd wake up in her apartment more often than my own, both of us pretending I was just crashing for a bit. Her toothbrush appeared next to mine in the bathroom. My jacket found a permanent place on her couch. We were still best friends, but something new had settled between us, something warm and fragile. One evening, we were cooking dinner together, or trying to. Riley had burned the pasta, and the smoke alarm was screaming. We were both laughing so hard we could barely breathe as we fanned the air with dish towels. This is not exactly the domestic bliss I imagined, I said between giggles. Riley grinned, her cheeks flushed. Oh, come on. Every good marriage needs a near-death pasta experience. When the alarm finally stopped, the silence that followed felt different, comfortable, yet charged. I was standing close to her, so close that I could feel the heat from her skin, smell the faint scent of vanilla and citrus that had always been her. Riley looked at me, her laughter fading. You know, sometimes I forget we're actually married, she said softly. I smiled, heart racing. And sometimes I can't forget it at all. Her expression softened. Does that bother you? I shook my head. No. It scares me a little, but it doesn't bother me. She reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. Good. Because I like this. You. Us. There was something in the way she said us that made my chest tighten. Without thinking, I reached for her hand, and she squeezed it gently. Later that night, we sat on the couch, a movie playing quietly in the background. Riley had her head on my shoulder, her fingers drawing small circles on my wrist. It was such a simple moment, but it felt profound. For the first time, there was no confusion, no pretending, no what-ifs. Do you ever regret it? I asked quietly. She tilted her head to look at me. Vegas. I nodded. She smiled faintly. No, not for a second. Do you? I thought about that night, the laughter, the tequila, the lights, the wildness of it all, and how it had somehow led us here. Not anymore, I said truthfully. Riley leaned closer, her lips brushing against my temple. Good, she whispered. Because I think this might be the best mistake I've ever made. We both laughed softly, but I felt tears in my eyes anyway. Because she was right. In Vegas, we had stumbled into marriage by accident. But somewhere between the chaos and the quiet mornings, the friendship and the fear, we had found something real. Something worth keeping. And as I curled closer to her that night, listening to her heartbeat steady beneath my cheek, I realized that love doesn't always come the way you expect it. It had been 3 months since Vegas, but sometimes it still felt like a dream. Our wedding night was a blur of lights and laughter, yet what came after, quiet mornings, shared coffee, the soft way Riley smiled when she caught me staring, was what made it feel real. We never announced our marriage publicly. To everyone else, we were still Riley and Liv, best friends since college, inseparable as always. But behind closed doors, the truth had grown roots, gentle and steady, the way love should. One evening, as summer melted into fall, Riley surprised me with dinner on the rooftop of her building. The city lights stretched out around us, the air cool and soft. She'd set up candles, take-out boxes, and a bottle of the same cheap champagne we'd drunk that night in Vegas. I laughed when I saw it. You're sentimental now? She grinned. Only when it comes to you. We ate under the stars, joking about the absurdity of our beginning. Every once in a while, she'd reach across the table to steal my fries or brush her thumb over my hand. It wasn't the loud kind of romance, just quiet, sure affection. When the plates were empty, she stood and took my hand. Dance with me, she said. There's no music. There doesn't have to be. So I stood, and she pulled me close, swaying gently to the hum of the city below. Her chin rested against my forehead, her arms wrapped around me. I felt completely still, even though the world kept moving. After a while, she whispered, Do you ever think about doing it again? I looked up at her, puzzled. Doing what? Getting married, she said with a soft smile. But this time, sober. Real. My breath caught. She wasn't joking, her eyes were steady, serious, hopeful. Riley, I started, but words failed me. She took a deep breath. I know we've already said the words once, probably slurred them, but I meant mine. I want to say them again, with you fully knowing what they mean. My eyes stung, tears threatening. You're really asking me to marry you again? She smiled, her voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, for real this time. Not as a joke. Not as a mistake. But because I love you. I felt the world tilt. Everything, the laughter, the confusion, the years of friendship, had led to this single moment. I nodded, unable to stop the tears. Yes, I said softly. 1,000 times, yes. She pulled me into her arms, and when our lips met, it wasn't impulsive or uncertain. It was steady and true. The kind of kiss that promised forever. When we finally pulled apart, she laughed quietly. Guess this means we're officially official. I smiled through my tears. Finally. And as the city glowed around us, I realized that love doesn't always arrive the way you plan. Sometimes it finds you in a drunken blur in Vegas, wrapped in laughter and neon lights. But if it's real, if it's her, it finds a way to stay.